2002 was when we started the organisation, and that was based, there was a few of us who looked at starting something because there was nothing in the area for victims of domestic abuse.
I was 18 years old, so I was quite naive. I thought I was doing what I just thought it was just normal.
For the first year, amazing, fantastic, never had any problems.
I thought he was just a nice, caring man, but you know, the signs were there, but I just didn't realise.
I was 15 at the time, he was 22, you know, we just got friends and that, like all our families were talking and stuff like that. And it just went from there, and I got in a relationship with him. A month after, he convinced me to move in with him. It took me a year to completely get from him.
This is why I stayed in the relationship until the point where I could stay there with my kids and she would have to go.
If he was bad all the time, would you be with him?
I think probably I always knew my husband was a bully.
And then after that, then little things would start to seep in. And then I think it just got to a point where I just had enough.
So we looked to set up an organisation and looked at various models. So you can do a few things when you're setting up domestic abuse services. You can run like the Women's Aid Project, which is a very traditional model. We've got some quite stringent rules about how you operate. Or you can run a refuge, which can still be Women's Aid or can be something different. And we looked at those and didn't feel they quite fitted with what we wanted, because as individuals we wanted to be able to help as many people as possible.
We have the domestic abuse posters around the place, you know, telling you what falls under domestic abuse. But without physical injuries, it's very difficult to come forward. Because what evidence is there of what's going on?
You know, everyone has arguments, everyone falls out.
Chipping away at your confidence, making you feel, you know, like they isolate you.
Then it got to the point where I felt like I was forced to have him there. He had nowhere else to go. He'd give me the sob stories all the time. He'd turn up at my door crying, saying no one else wanted him.
Stop you seeing your family.
He would take my phone off me and he'd put it on charge so that I wouldn't use my phone.
Name calling.
He just lied about everything, like when it came to my school prom last year, he wouldn't let me go.
But then, I don't know, you question it, but then you put it aside. Because at the end of the day, you love that person more than anything, and you don't want to lose them.
So we're very keen on trialing new things and backing that with research and evidence so that we can then share what we're doing with others and hopefully help to move the whole field forward.
I'm responsible for programmes and groups. I also undertake a lot of training and presentations and things, you know, go anywhere and speak to anybody. So at the moment I run 5 groups a week. One in Pontypool, which is in a women-only safe place, and I actually deliver the Freedom Programme there. 2 knowledge programmes here, which is basically my programme that I've developed. The knowledge programme looks at what is domestic abuse and how it affects people. One is female only, so I only have women victims on there. It's only me that delivers it, or Charlotte sometimes helps out, sometimes with facilitation. The other one is co-gender facilitated between me and Sam, because we've got a big project at the moment going on that we're looking at the difference between groups for victims of domestic abuse and whether they've got good male role models in their life.
They obviously sat down with me and I had many sessions, you know, and it was amazing, you know, because like quite often when you're in this sort of situation where you come to places like this, which is a valuable thing, the thing of you may answer your phone, you may reply to texts and things like that, because there's nothing worse, because that's the control. They need to know where you are, they need to know what you're doing, and if they haven't got that, they will search high and low, and like I said, won't be tied then when they catch you.
The Freedom Programme is a very staunch feminist approach, and that's difficult if you're talking about male victims. If you're talking about male victims of female perpetrators, or if you're talking about male victims in same-sex relationships, or indeed females in same-sex relationships.
And I thought as well, when I think everybody thinks the same thing when actually been to a domestic abuse meeting with other people, was that Now, like you see on the American televisions, they do alcoholics, you've got to stand up, say your name, you've been aware of money for so long, but no, you just sit there, you haven't got to get out of the chair and say, I've been victim of domestic abuse for so long, and this have happened, that have happened. You haven't got to share none of it unless you want to. Like.
So I also run 2 groups, which are the Dignity Programme, which is the second stage programme, which is basically a pattern changing programme. And again, I've developed that myself over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. That looks at, I'm in an abusive relationship, or I've been in an abusive relationship. I know that, I understand it, I understand the effects on me, I understand the effects on my family, but what do I do now? How do I stop myself getting into another abusive relationship? How do I move on?
Because of the programmes they put me on and how to recognise domestic abuse, how it starts, stuff like that. I did get into a relationship after that, and he did try it, but then I got out of the relationship because if it wasn't for domestic abuse I probably wouldn't have, but they make you stronger. But now I've took all what they've taught me, because it is really teaching, you know. I took it and I help my friends now.
It's a 15-week programme, there's 5 themes, and by the end of it, if people have done the knowledge programme and the dignity programme, they've probably been with me for between 6 and 12 months.
Because I was so uneducated, but I've come here now and I know loads. I know loads because they give us handouts as well at the end of the group. You know, so that was helpful. I take them home to my mother to read and stuff like that. My boyfriend reads them as well.
And at that point they don't want to leave then. And that's when I'm saying, no, you need to go and you need to go and do something else. Because a lot of people, when they get there, they want to then save other people and they want to explain to other people exactly what's happening.
I work with the Inspire group as well, and my support worker there, she wanted me to do my own sort of group with the Inspire people, because some of them are going through domestic abuse but not being referred to this place yet.
It's about where you go from here, and it's giving you steps then and lessons and tools basically to cope with when you have these little blips, which you will have.
Like I said, I take so much from what I've learned here, and I try and help as much as I can, because like signs of early domestic violence, I pick them up really quick now, so hopefully I, will help people with it.
Before I came here, I never would have spoken about half the stuff I talk about, whereas you've been downstairs, I don't shut up. These days, and I'll tell anyone because I'm not ashamed of it anymore. Before I would have been completely ashamed, whereas now I feel like it's a learning curve. And if I didn't help myself, I can help someone else at least.
Right from the beginning, we were very keen to be able to work with perpetrators, because I think my belief is that if we work with victims, and we can become really, really good at working with victims, and loads of organisations work really, really well, we help victims to recognise what's going on, to end the relationship and to move on safely. And that is so important, we wouldn't take away from that at all, but all you're doing is moving that perpetrator on. They're not going to not have another relationship, so the better we get at working with victims, the more victims we actually create, because the perpetrator will move on again and again and again, and there's more victims.
So I manage a little team, the Perpetrator Intervention Team, and we work with those individuals who've been referred to the organisation, who have been identified previously by the referring agency, be they police officers out walking the streets, or social workers dealing with child protection issues, as the perpetrator of abuse, of aggression, violence, threatening behaviour in intimate partner relationships. Whether they're male, female, or from same-sex relationships, we'll take the referral and pick things up from there.
Put it through, I think I ran Women's Aid back last year, and they referred the number to me, so I gave them a call. Spoke to Luke, and basically I come up for an interview a month later. The sort of person I used to be, there's a lot of people like that around every area, so I would have thought that it would have been bigger groups. But it just says to me how many people out there don't sort of admit to what their problems are.
Or don't realise maybe.
Or don't realise, like I didn't. I didn't, like it took social services to give me a kick in the ass basically. Obviously I don't have any thoughts of being violent, it doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
Violence don't really get you anywhere, it was before you think you're winning something and you're not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it's about control, isn't it? And there's abuse, a lot of domestic abuse sort of centres are in control.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you get that control any which way you can. You know, I look at people who are like what I used to be like, and it turns my stomach like. I couldn't believe I was that sort of person.
I believe they can change as well. I do believe if someone really wanted to, as long as they saw, like if we can see what happens on the inside, once we come out of it, then maybe they can too sometimes, you know. And I do believe that some of them can change, I really do. So they just need a bit of help. And obviously, as soon as people hear, oh, he had a woman, they instantly judge someone for it, and then they don't get the help they need. Whereas if someone says to them, it's okay, you know, if you want the help, we're here to help you, then they can make themselves better.
Well, I'd say what we're hoping to do is reduce risk and increase safety. Part of the work, an essential part of the work, is we speak to partners and ex-partners and get some of the feedback on how the situation, how the relationship might be changing as the intervention goes along. So we're generally measuring risk based not just what on the participant, the perpetrator is telling us, but hopefully what on the partner, ex-partner is telling us, what other agencies involved are telling us, and what the police are telling us as well, because we're tied into the domestic abuse conference call. So, you know, within 24 hours of an incident, we're made aware of it, the police are involved. So we're continuously getting a lot of feedback about what's happening outside of the group room. And the overall hope is that those sorts of incidents are reduced, either in frequency or severity as time goes on, and safety is deemed to have increased. And I suppose completely blue sky, people are living happy, healthy lives, and people who can and should be allowed to remain together as a family are being allowed to do so.
I feel more like the person I was before. I'm not the same person because I've been through this process. And I think but I'm not Shell anymore.
It's a huge weight off my shoulders just coming to group, because during the week then I have no one to speak to, but then I come to group and I can just get everything off my chest, and they are there with a lot of support, a lot.
The first thing I would say is if you've got any doubt in your mind with regards to a relationship and there's something that don't feel right or don't sit right, it doesn't hurt to pick up the phone, to ring an organisation like DAS and then talk with them. Just see what they say, see what their views are with regards to it, because sometimes I don't think you realise what's going on until it's all put out in front of you. Because you can block it away for as long as you want, but at the end of the day it's going to come out in the end. And like I said, you need support. Like I said, if you're lucky enough to have family, if you're lucky enough to have friends and support, that's amazing, all well and good. But I think sometimes you just need that complete stranger that understands and will listen. And yeah, the support that they can give it's hard to explain what they do, because they give you back your confidence, they give you back your life, they give you back, you know, someone telling you you are worth something. You're not these nasty names that someone calls you, you know. You can't define your life by the marks on your body at the end of the day, and you don't deserve this. And I think they make you realise as well that not all men are like that. And that all women, because it happens to men as well. But yeah, partners about love, they're not about hate.
I'm really happy in myself. Good. Like people say, how can you be so happy? I'm not needy either, because I now know that you don't need a man, you know, either. You know, I'm strong-minded as now. You know, I've got a big goal, and you know, but no, I'm really confident, and you know, yeah, I'm really brilliant.
That's the important part. They don't judge you. You can talk and say what you like, and they just leave you talk, and they will help you if you want help, and they'll talk to you and give you advice. But they don't judge you either, which is a good thing.
I think if I hadn't have come here, I probably wouldn't be as strong as I am. I certainly wouldn't be as aware of this, even now. I've been here 3 months, I think, and I still see, like they still talk about stuff that I didn't realise was going on. I see family members going through the same sort of stuff and I wouldn't have seen it before. It's helped a lot. This place is top of the world.
It's tough to make that admission. That's probably the hardest part, is making the admission to yourself and other people that you need the service. But once you do, the support is fantastic. I want to go here now. Help.
Thank you.